Okay, so welcome to Classics 160D2, Classical Mythology, and today's lecture 3.2, Aeschylus' Prometheus Bound. I am here just to get you guys started today. What we're going to do is I've got a few announcements. I'll give you guys the announcements, a little bit on the honors project, that sort of thing, and then I'm going to pass it over to the wonderful, amazing, unparalleled GATs who are going to be taking you through today's class. We're going to start with some feedback on the reading responses. From there, we will move into the project, and then we're going to conclude with a little bit on Prometheus Bound itself. So let's see what those announcements actually are. What do I have today? I've got the tried and true. Put it in speaker view. You can actually see me. You can see what's behind me. You'll be able to see everything that's going on. Once the TAs take over, they'll be putting it, kind of sharing their screens, so that'll take care of itself. If you have any questions that are going on, feel free to direct message me after I shut up and stop talking, or any of the TAs that are not currently talking. Try not to message the one who is talking. It's difficult to manage it all at once. Honors projects, those are up and running. You just have to find those by going to D2L, Content, Course Introduction, Honors Projects. All right, D2L, Content, Course Introductions, Honors Projects. You will find everything that you need there. And then the other thing I would just say is you guys are doing a really good job. So I got some good feedback on the first reading responses. I think by and large, those were a big success. So if you worked hard on that and you're happy with what happened, great, right? You guys are off to a good start, and we'll be giving you a little bit more feedback in addition to what you guys already got today. So I think that's it. Let me go ahead and turn this over to Colin to talk a little bit about academic integrity. Whatever he's going to say, unless he says that it's not important, I totally co-sign. And just kind of remember, what we want more than anything are your original ideas, right? Like when you guys get out into the real world. Okay, believe it or not, it's not super important exactly like which mortal woman Zeus made out with. It's important for this class, don't get me wrong, but in the real world, it doesn't matter that much. But it does matter that you have original ideas and you can make arguments and support them with evidence. So Colin, without further ado, the stage is yours and academic integrity.
Alrighty, hi everyone, hope you are all doing well. I'm gonna screen share just for a hot second, and then we're gonna go over, Darcy's gonna screen share. So we're gonna go through academic integrity kind of quickly, give you an overview of like what it is, why it's important, and like what to look out for. All right, so academic integrity is what the University of Arizona is based on. This is like the foundational cornerstones of how the university runs the school and how we as a university community conduct ourselves. So if we look at this picture we have in front of us, we can think of this in this circle that reinforces itself. So we have ideas of honesty, trust, responsibility, respect, fairness. These are all core tenets that we must abide by. And it's not only just you guys who are the students, but us as graduate TAs, we're students and staff, and then also the faculty. Those folks also have to abide by this. Okay, so let's get into what actually academic integrity is. Okay, so according to the Dean of Students Office, via the Code of Academic Integrity, which I encourage you all to go through, and since you are on campus, it is your responsibility to know this. So most of us have grown up knowing that academic integrity is really like plagiarism, don't cheat, don't take other people's ideas. Obviously, we know that, but it's actually expanded into much broader ideas. So if we look at the first note up here, it goes into cheating, we know what that is, fabrication, kind of like fibbing, making anything, falsifying information that's not your own, plagiarism, we know what that is, or facilitating academic dishonesty. So this would fall into something like if your buddy said, hey, I cheated on Dr. Rob's test and no one knew about it, you would have to report that because you are facilitating academic dishonesty. So something like that goes into this ideas of respect and responsibility. Okay, so going on. resubmitting previous work or submission without citation. We're going to be talking about the importance of citation. Specifically, Darcy will be doing that. And it's so important to give credit to other people's work. Keep going on. Violating disciplinary and professional ethics rules. This is a little vague, but the University of Arizona and the colleges that we are all a part of have these ethics rules. So if you do violate them, or if you do get sanctioned and violate them, then those are big no-nos. Moving on. An advantage by breaking specific health, safety, or ethical requirements. This is something that more applies to laboratory classes, those of you who are going into the sciences, but equally applies to humanities courses as well. Breaking course rules of academic integrity. So an example of this is that Dr. Rob has allowed you all to use your class notes for tests. However, if he said, no, you can't use your class notes, but you instead do use them for the test, that would be breaking the rules. And lastly, you have committing an act to break the code or assisting another to break the code. So it's just not good to even try to break any kind of academic integrity. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so whose responsibility is this? This is yours, your classmates, your friends, the guy down the hall from you, the girl that you see at the cafeteria, TAs, professors, UA staff. We are all a part of this, and we all make academic integrity flow because we have these senses of trust, responsibility, and honesty. Okay, moving on. Okay, so as part of academic integrity in our jobs as TAs, we want to let you know what happens just in case you get kind of caught up in this. So if, let's say there is a problem between you and this class, you would have a student-faculty conference. This would be between you and Dr. Stefan, not the TAs. The TAs would only be involved unless we had prior knowledge of what's happening, but we would probably never know if something happens. Okay, so if Dr. Stefan finds something happens, great, you're fine. However, if he does, then he can impose sanctions. The TAs cannot impose sanctions on you. Now, mind you, if multiple sanctions happen, then the academic dean will notify you, the dean of students office, and the dean of the college. So that's really if things get really hairy for you. Okay, so if things get even crazier, the third step is the appeal to the dean of the college. So if the dean of the college says, hey, there were no violations in the first place, fine, you're good. They may say there were no new violations, but the violations that Dr. Stefan found still in place. And lastly, the dean of the college may even modify those original sanctions for new ones too. And lastly, you have a final appeal to the university hearing board, and their decision is final. So this whole process is to know that you do have the idea of due process within the college, and that we do not sanction people willy-nilly for various things. Like if we're not going to get on your case if you don't cite a source in your responses every time. But if it becomes a habit, then we have to have that conversation about it. Okay, with that, I'll kick it off to Darcy, but if you guys have any questions about this, please email us or Dr. Stefan.
Okay, hi guys. So I just quickly wanted to cover formatting in terms of your citations, your bibliography. I saw a little bit of trouble on this for your last reading response, so I thought maybe it was just a good idea to just check in with everybody and kind of move forward with a clearer picture. So as you can see right down here, the bibliography is a pretty standard MLA bibliography. So first you want to list the author and then the title of the work, follows any translators, and then it just gives additional publishing information. And then at the end, you'll want to cite the website where you found it or the information of where you found it as well. And then take a look at the parenthetical citation. For this class, let's just go ahead and do the author followed by the title, italicized title, and then whatever line numbers you're trying to reference behind that. So formatting, the bibliography of the work cited in the parenthetical citation just work hand in hand to give your readers a lot of information about just the particular body of work that you're drawing your information from, the place where you're finding it, and it just really helps your readers for a few different things. For example, if your readers want to expand on some of the work that you've done, if they've got additional questions and they think to themselves, hey, I'd love to write a paper on this, following the work of whatever person has written this, they can just hop on your information, check out your citations, compare it to the bibliography, go from there. If there's questions about the translation, I mean, we look at Hesiod and there's about 1 million translations of Hesiod, right? So if there's a specific question about the translation, you can find that information in the bibliography, right? And then if you're just trying to get if your readers are just trying to get a better understanding of, what it is you're trying to say, your parenthetical citations in your bibliographies can give a lot of information. So just making sure that all of this works together so that your readers have a really clear understanding of where you're coming from and, the information that you're drawing from will all be good to go. So if you guys have any additional questions, there's some really good resources out there that'll give you more information. So there's a citation guide at the U of A library. Check that out if you've got any other questions. Purdue OWL is a really good website. I've used them quite extensively in just trying to figure out specific citation information and, how to set things up. So if you have any other questions about MLA formatting, APA formatting, whatever, go ahead and check that out. I really like to use MLA formatting for something like this because MLA formatting is kind of geared towards making sure that you've got a page number or, in this case, a line number that you can draw from. So next, let's just go ahead and check out some of the final project grading components. So there's going to be 3 different areas that you're going to want to pay attention to for this final project. And the first one is coming up. You've got, about 3 weeks for this? So that's going to be your research proposal draft. Now, this is going to be about 500 words, and it's going to be due October 2nd, and it's going to be 5% of your grade. So Matt's going to be talking a bit more about, just how to start thinking about this and really start to get into it. So just prepare yourselves for what's coming up and know what's down the pipeline. After that, you're going to have the proposal, and that's going to be due November 13th. And then the final project will follow on December 4th. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hand it over to Matt, and he'll get you started on some good ideas for this.
All right. Hi, everybody. So everybody's thinking about what is a good topic. But to start, I want everybody to kind of think about it for a minute or two. And then I want you to message me what you think might be what makes up a good topic. Just take a minute or two and just think in your mind, what would be a good topic? What are some components of a good topic? Just take a minute or two. All right. So I think Darcy's going to transcribe for me as I kind of say these out loud. But there's a good one. So something you're interested in. That is really good, if it'll let you, Darcy. If not, we'll just go on to the next slide. I'll just say them out loud. So something that you're interested in, something that's not too broad. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Something not too specific. Yeah, that's true. Something that's too specific may not have evidence, which can be kind of hard. Okay. Applicable to modern times. Yeah, linking it with today and what you know today and what interests you. Okay, those are some actual good topics. There you go. The world. Yeah, so it looks like some of you already have a good topic in mind. So there's some specific ones, not just what makes a good one. Multiple sources always help. Places where you can draw from a lot of different things is always good. Let's see. Yes. There's a good thing. If you are not sure about your topic, if you're not sure it's a good thing or if it's too broad, too little, you can talk with your TAs. You can email us or come to office hours if we're holding them. Feel free to always reach out to your TAs about a good topic. Now, a bad topic kind of is the opposite of what we said. Something too broad. If you want to talk about gods and that's your topic, there's going to be a lot there and a lot to unpack, just even in Greek mythology. So narrowing it to a specific god or to a specific myth kind of helps in, fleshing that out. And so also we don't want a summary. So we know you're reading, and we don't want to just read again what you've read. We want to hear your ideas. It's about what you think, what's important to you, what interests you, and what things that your mind has picked out of the text or seen in the myths. So that's kind of going along with what Colin and Dr. Stefan said about academic integrity. We want to hear your ideas, your voice, so show us your voice. All right, so just to kind of give an example topic, go to the next slide. All right, so I'm sure that most people here have heard the story of Noah. It's in the Judeo-Christian religions, and it's a tale of how God was upset with the way humans were acting, and so tasked Noah to build a giant ark, a giant boat, to get 2 of every animal onto the ship and his family, and kind of sail and survive this massive flood that it meant to wipe out humanity. So, but did you know that flood myths are common throughout the world, and especially in this region? There are 2 others that really, really correlate well with the Noah myth. So you have one from our dear ancient Greece, and you also have one from ancient Sumeria. And they all kind of seem similar. So the first one, who I'm sure I will butcher this name because it is Sumerian, and I do not speak Sumerian, Utnapishtim. So Utnapishtim is mentioned in the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's one of the first pieces of writing in the world, and it's written in cuneiform. And basically it tells how the god Enki tasked this guy I'll call him Ut, tasked Ut to build a giant ship, a giant ark called the Preserver of Life. And it was to save himself, who had been loyal to the god, and the things around him from this flood. So he builds the ship in 5 days, and he brings his wife, his family, relatives, craftsmen, baby animals, and lots of grains, different types of grains onto the ship. And for 7 days, they sail around in the waters. Final day, they make it to a mountain. They land on a mountain, and they send out birds. And the birds come back, I think it's a dove, a pigeon, and eventually a raven. And the raven finds that the land has the water receded, the land had come back. So they get out, they release all the animals, and they make sacrifices to the gods. And actually, in reward for this, he's actually giving, Ut is given immortality along with his wife. And kind of, this is really similar, like we said, to the myth of Noah, where he is tasked by a deity to build a ship, bring animals on board, they sail around, they land on a mountain, they send out birds. This is possibly coming from the same story. This is possibly 2 sides of the same coin, because it's so similar. And the regions are really close together too. So I didn't put a map up here, but for basically the area we're looking at is what is modern day kind of Israel, and up and down into modern day Iran. It's the Fertile Crescent. It makes like a crescent shape. And so, and in Greek mythology, we also have Deucalion, which kind of links with what we've been talking about this week. Prometheus. Deucalion is the son of Prometheus. And Prometheus being the knower of of everything, the knower of the future. He tells his son, Deucalion, hey, there's a flood here. Zeus is pissed off. So Zeus had been pissed off about, a lot of things. It's Zeus. But specifically, Lycaon. So after, we talked about it last class, but after Zeus had that run-in with Lycaon, he was kind of tired of humans and their whole kind of disloyalty or how they want to test the gods. So he says, all right, I'm flooding everything. Time for a reset. So Deucalion is told by his father, and with the help of his father, builds a chest, a wooden chest, and with his wife Pyrrha, they get in the chest and they survive the storm. They land on a mountain as well. And from there, they get out, they make sacrifices to Zeus. Then they consult an oracle about how to repopulate the earth. And the oracle says that the bones of the mother will help you repopulate. And they took that as Gaia, the mother earth. So they took stones and threw them over their shoulders. The ones from Deucalion became man, and the ones from Pyrrha became women. So we have 3 different myths here. And I want everybody to kind of send in the chat, what are some similarities you see between these 3? And how can we break it down even further? So let's just take a minute and everybody just throw some things into the chat about what you think is similar between these 3. Repopulation, humans need to be cleansed. Yeah, so kind of this focus on just a few people surviving, the few good ones. Let's see. Repopulating the earth. God's also forewarning of a disaster. So, yeah, sin, cleansing. Many cultures, water is a cleansing agent of different things. Large disaster. Yeah, wrath of the gods. So, yeah, those are all some good points. A boat. So, if we kind of break down this myth, in all 3 contexts, we have basically some type of event that's about to happen. We have a god forewarning somebody, them building some type of vessel to survive, them getting in said vessel, sometimes just them, sometimes with animals, different things, landing on a mountain, praise and sacrifice to the gods, repopulating the earth. So you can break this down really well. And this is one of the things you can make good topics out of, taking different myths, either from various mythologies or from Greek mythology, and breaking down their components to see what is similar. Now, there's a lot of ways you could write about this. Just kind of taking this like first level is usually a good way, especially for a class like this. I'm sure there are plenty of papers and ideas about how this possibly relates to a precursor Indo-European myth, Indo-European god or goddess. That's a little heavy, but if you want to write about it, definitely. Yeah, so those are kind of some ideas. That's like an example of an idea. So taking the structure of myth, breaking them down to their core components, and then looking at it. I don't remember. If you look online, there's a TED Talk talking about the journey of a hero. And this TED Talk goes through how many myths around the world, the myth of the hero can like be broken down into like 7 parts. And it funnily enough works for just almost universally. So yeah, looking for those kind of ideas is a great way to do it. All right, so there's picking a topic. What we're going to do now is we are going to take our attendance. And today, Hercules is brown. So everybody take a few minutes, select brown, and yeah. That indeed is some strange brown. I don't know, brown. It's like a more, I don't know, I almost thought it was peach to start with, but I guess it's a little dull for peach. I don't know.
It was the best brown I could find. There's not a lot of good brown options.
Matte peach. I don't know. I like that one, Matte Peach. Not just because it has my name in it. Tan. I don't know. Does anybody know anybody that's tan like that? Seems a little weird. Sepia. That's a good one. Khaki. It's just not quite khaki to me. Beige. Still, beige is along the same lines as khaki for me. I don't know. Terracotta. That's that. I actually like that one. Kind of looks like it's a little light, but still, I like terracotta. Pink. It does a little look pink. That's why I thought peach. More peach. It's like a brownish pink. I don't think it's sand. Maybe it's because I play too much Minecraft, but sand does not look like that to me. Rose gold. I like that one. No, I don't think he's tan enough for Jersey Shore. All right. So I think that leaves plenty of time. So I think Julianne, I think you're next, right?
Correct, I am.
Awesome. Good luck.
Okay, thank you. All right, awesome. So now we're going to kind of shifting away from the project, looking more at Prometheus Bound. But we're going to talk a little bit about God's morality, which is an important thing to keep in mind throughout reading all of these texts, and something that you definitely can bring up and address in your project if you want to. But we didn't want to just talk at you about morality. So we figured we'd start by actually looking at the text. And so we included an excerpt from the text, which I will read aloud to you. And then but also, if you have wider observations from Prometheus Bound, definitely send those to me, and we have a slide for that here in a couple slides. So you can hold on to that too if you want. But so this is just an excerpt where Hephaestus says, Kratos and Via, you've done your part of Zeus's command. You need do nothing more. You may go now, but I have not the strength of heart to tie a god, a relative of ours, upon this wild and icy rock. Still, I must do so. I must harden my resolve and obey, because it is a heavy thing to disobey. Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. How much did you miss? You can't hear me? Okay. Can people hear me? Yes or no? Yes? No. It's going in and out. No. I'm getting yeses and I'm getting no's. Yes, but it cuts in and out. Okay. So I'm getting a fair amount of yeses and a couple of ins and outs. So basically what I said, thank you to everyone who is responding. Hopefully you can hear me. You heard up through reading the passage. Okay, perfect. That's the most important part. If I did cut out, hopefully you can hear me now. But either way, I'll send this in the chat just in case. The most important thing is on the slide. It's the passage that we're looking at. So any observations about morality from this passage? And I'm going to send this in the chat. The one on the slide that hopefully you can read. Okay. If I turn off my camera. Okay. I'm going to try turning off my camera. Can you hear me? Is that better? Okay, awesome. So I'm getting a comment of something about morality is doing what you have to do even if you don't like it. I got a really good one. Even the gods are not perfect moral actors. Nice. Yeah, so nice. Hephaestus is conflicted because he needs to obey, and so that's where his moral conflicts. Yeah, he has his morals and his conscience, but is more afraid of Zeus and blames Prometheus for his high values. Yeah, morality and gods are separate. Nice. Someone's mentioning obedience to a higher power. Yeah, so these are all, and his conscience to be overridden by Zeus's decree. Yeah, these are all really, really great observations that you all are making and pointing out here. Yeah, or Zeus views himself above morality. That's a really great one. You guys are sending in awesome responses. Darcy, if you could just switch the slide here for a minute. So I wanted to, you guys are all making such great observations, and I wanted to specifically look at, oh wait, no, go back. Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to look at kind of specifically at some of the phrasing or some of the diction in this passage that specifically, at least to me, talked about morality, and kind of looking at like where specifically in the text can we learn about this. So, I mean, you guys already made some really, really great observations, and I think that you did draw from this. So looking specifically at what is underlined here, right? I have not the strength of heart to tie a relative of ours, and yet that is contrasted with it is a heavy thing to disobey our father. So with this, I just really wanted to kind of point out being able to specifically point to somewhere in the text where you get your ideas. So considering these parts that are underlined, I'm sure it'll be pretty similar responses, but does anything else have anything that they want to add? Or point out with the text or something like that. Again, this is an exercise in close reading is what we're trying to do. So, someone says family is more important. Prometheus is considered moral for doing what is good, giving fire to mortals. It's nice. Anything else? Like I said, it's the same passage, so there's not too much that's changing here. But we really wanted to kind of emphasize reading the text, yeah. Shows Zeus is depicted as a martyr. Oh, yeah, don't upset or else. Nice. Don't upset Zeus or else. Gotcha. The father figure, someone saying. Oh, someone says it's interesting that Hephaestus feels remorse even though it was his fire and his gift Prometheus stole. Interesting. So, and I mean, again, throughout it, it's emphasized that Prometheus stole this for the good of humanity. So again, it's the whole going with your conscience type thing. Okay, it says my internet is unstable again. I am so sorry, you all. Can you still hear me? All right, cool. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Awesome. So, and we can kind of look at some of these takeaways, right? So the gods themselves struggle with morality, right? Some of you correctly pointed out that Hephaestus himself is saying that he doesn't really want to have to tie Prometheus up, or he feels bad kind of doing it, but that in the end what Zeus wants, he wants to obey what Zeus does. And so the right action, because he goes on to say at the end that it is a heavy thing to disobey our father's word, and he ends up going and doing what Zeus said as opposed to maybe what he would have wanted, which is not to do that to Prometheus. And so what's really interesting is the way that Zeus is portrayed. And some of you all in the comments did get at this. So kind of looking at these questions, how does Prometheus Bound portray Zeus's morality? If anyone has any comments on that. And also think about the passage we just read, but kind of think about like some of the characters that were included. So like Prometheus himself, the titular character, Io is there, the chorus is the daughters of Oceanus. So all people that necessarily aren't on good terms with Zeus. His word is law. He cares mostly about himself, is some of the answers I'm getting. Zeus is a dark, scary figure sitting up high. Zeus's morals only apply to what he wants. Someone's saying Zeus is a tyrant in the play. And Zeus is the god of justice, doesn't respond to conscience like Hephaestus does. So there's a difference between conscience and morality in doing what's right. Interesting. Again, a tyrant. Yeah, seen as a power-hungry goddess said by the chorus. Good, yeah. He's a hypocrite. Yeah. So what do you guys kind of think? I mean, evaluating the morality, we kind of addressed this in the last class a little bit, but does Zeus set the example for morality? Do you think these ancient Greeks would have looked up to him then as the moral character? No. Yeah. They shouldn't. Not really maybe a party god? No, hopefully not. I got a no in all caps. Your character does portray Zeus in a really bad light. I was going to say he would set the bar for the government, but not for interpersonal relations. We again got an I certainly hope not. Nice. Yeah, so in most cases, no. Nice. So again, this is kind of, we wanted to point out how, at least I know in modern society, it can be the case to say that like, oh, what is right and what is moral coincides with what like a deity or a higher power would want. And so it's really important to keep in mind that these different gods had different wills and desires and different things that they considered correct or incorrect. And so when talking about morality and setting the examples in ancient Greece, it's a little bit trickier to discern just between, oh, this is what Zeus or one of the gods does. And so therefore the ancient society must have emulated that. And so that's just something we really want to make sure when we're reading the texts we notice and are cognizant of. But yeah. Are there any questions about any of this? I'll also just open it up. Did you guys have any other observations about Prometheus or Hephaestus? And my favorite color is blue. Thank you for asking. But more related to Prometheus bound and the morality or the conscience conflicts in there. Kratos is a simp for Zeus and everyone else hates him. Hot take. I hope you wrote your response about that. But yeah, just kind of any other observations? Zeus seems to fear man gaining power from Prometheus' gifts and overthrowing him like he did his ancestors. Nice. Zeus is very hateful towards mortals and he seems selfish. He definitely can come across that way in this work. Yeah. All right. Zeus is more of the judge and jury. Yeah. We got a comment that he talks about women's ankles way too much. A person with a strong will can't be killed. Nice. All right. Well, okay, we got a question. Do you think that maybe the gods did not actually care for Prometheus, but rather talking smack about Zeus? Oh, so are you trying to say maybe they weren't as concerned with his punishment as much as they just wanted an excuse to bash Zeus? I feel like with the characters we get in the play who had a grudge to grind against Zeus, like Io and the chorus, definitely could be one ties to the other. That's a good question, but yeah. All right. Well, if there are no other questions or general observations related to this, I know that Katie has a very interesting perspective to share, so we can go ahead and send it off to her.
All right, so I just want to talk a little about sort of Prometheus in the wider scope of mythology. And just as kind of a disclaimer for this, Greek mythology has a quirk, or I mean, maybe you could call it a feature. And the feature is that they just have a lot of different variations on basically any of the stories that we have surviving. So we have accounts of Prometheus from Hesiod, we have Aeschylus, obviously, as we've just read, and we also have Ovid and Apollodorus, and just so many other people who have just sort of given their own opinion on who Prometheus is and how he affects a society in well, obviously specifically the Greek society, since he is an extremely important figure there. So throughout these stories, the most common theme is that Prometheus is just always on the side of humans and just, I guess, the winning team, you could say, which makes a lot of sense. And Matt sort of touched on this briefly. His name literally means forethought. So he has the ability to see how things are going to play out. So we have him initially siding against the Titans in the Titanomachy, both he and his mother Themis. Aeschylus has his mother being Themis. This is not what Hesiod said. There's one example of some of the discrepancies that we have in these myths. Prometheus is also very heavily involved in the formation of humanity. We have a lot of different accounts of how exactly this happened. In some stories, Zeus was planning on just destroying humanity, which had already been made, and Prometheus somehow prevented this from happening. Or we even have Prometheus actually being the one to sculpt humanity from clay, and you can see that in the artwork over there, and then Athena breathed life into them. We also have another version where Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus, whose name actually means afterthought, which has some interesting implications in myth. They both make humanity together. Epimetheus ends up giving all of like the cool abilities to the various animals of the world, and there's nothing left for humans. So that's given as the reason why Prometheus ends up giving humans fire and making them able to walk upright. And then later on, after humanity is sort of formed and wandering around, Zeus demands that they give him some sort of sacrifice, that humans should take some of the cows they've raised and give the gods something back, because the gods do so much for humanity, right? But they don't want to give Zeus like all of the good parts, otherwise they're not going to be able to feed their families, and that's going to be a huge problem. So Prometheus comes down and he tells the people of Mekone to split apart all of the pieces of this offering that they have, and he takes all of the meat and the good bits and just the useful pieces, and he hides them under like organs and a stomach, so it just looks all gross and terrible. And then he takes all of the bones and he makes it look really pretty with all of the fat of the animal. And so when Zeus comes down and he's like told to pick one of these offerings, he ends up picking the one that looks nice, but is actually the bones, and leaves all of the useful items for humanity. And that's why we have sacrifices being like the burning of bones, because of this trick that happened, which is actually what causes Zeus to get super angry and leads directly into the fire stealing story. He either had already given fire to humanity and just decides to take that away, or he decided to just hide it from them so they could never have this great fire. And then obviously Prometheus has a problem with that, and he ends up changing Zeus's decision. So go ahead and move on to the next slide there. So focusing on the fire story in particular, a couple lines that we actually did go through. Kratos says early on in the play that Prometheus stole the very blossom of your craft, Hephaestus' craft, the blazing flame, the spark of every art, and gave it to the mortals. Later on, Prometheus, when he's sort of just discussing the implications of his actions, says, I know the future and all that it will bring, and I know all my suffering beforehand, so I must endure as best I can what necessity is sent upon me, because she cannot be resisted. So I want you guys to send me some responses and just sort of think about what does Kratos mean? Like, what did Prometheus end up giving to humanity with this fire? Is it just fire? Like, what is the broader implication of that? All right, I'm getting creativity and thought. I'm getting power, the potential to grow, independence from the gods, the ability to survive, the arts. Yeah, these are all really great answers. So the fire is definitely, go ahead and click on the next slide. Knowledge. All right. So the fire is sort of broadly representative of knowledge. Yes, you guys are right. So that's going to be astronomy, carpentry, medicine, metalworking, shipbuilding, just anything that involves technological advancement, but also the arts, the ability to just have this sort of creativity of thought. And I think one of you touched on this, the ability to grow as a society. Aeschylus in his play, we didn't read this part in the excerpt that we had, but in his play he discusses how maybe not like knowledge is not the most important thing that Prometheus gave to humanity. He said, Prometheus says, "I stopped mortals from foreseeing their fate." And the chorus asks, "What sort of remedy did you find for this plague?" "I planted in them blind hopes," which has a lot of really interesting implications because it sort of suggests that maybe the reason hope, which was just such an odd thing to be with all of the evils in the world, maybe the reason that was in the box to begin with was because Prometheus had thought to put it in there. So humanity could see all of the evils of the world, but because they had that blind hope, it didn't matter because they were just like, everything's going to be okay. We're going to work it out. We're going to live our lives. It's going to be cool. Aeschylus really gives a much brighter view of humanity than Hesiod did in the Ages of Man, where he's like, humanity is declining and we're just getting worse and worse. But Aeschylus in this play suggests that Prometheus actually gave humanity the potential to just sort of exponentially grow on their own outside of the control of the gods. So yeah, I want to give Dr. Stefan a little bit of time to wrap it up here. But yeah, good answers, everybody. Thanks for participating in that.
All right. Can everybody hear me all right? Am I coming through? I'm back. Good. All right. I don't have much else to say. Great job, guys. I mean, that's wonderful stuff in terms of giving some guidance on the project. To all the students out there, if you have specific questions, get in touch with your TAs. They're more than happy to talk with you about your project topics. It's really useful if you throw out some kind of specific ideas, right? So rather than saying, like, what should I do? Say like, hey, I'm really interested in this, right? Like I grew up loving the Disney Hercules movie, right? How can, I've been trying to think of different ways to make that a project topic. Here's 3 different options I'm thinking of. Can you give me feedback on which one you think will work best? Providing that specificity to the TA is going to allow them to give you a much more substantive response, okay? So work with them there. If you get those project topics nailed down early and you feel confident about them, the final thing is going to work much, much better. Other than that, take into account the words of wisdom they've given to you for the project, for the reading responses, and go have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you. I'll be lecturing again next Monday, all right? So have a great weekend, guys, and I will see you then.